Okay, I want to cue up this just a second so that people can see what the prevailing attitude is like out here. This should come through. Hold on.
All right, and so one of the things that I want the audience to know, let me know when you're ready, Chris.
Oh, I'm ready.
Is it going now?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay,
here
go.
we are. I'll put it up here.
Counsel, don't talk. Watch your tone, okay? I'm packing up, all right? Watch your tone to me. Thank you.
Please, get out. You're another
Watch your tone.
Listen.
I am an invitee, and I'm packing up.
You're not an invitee.
Oh, yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am. I'm at least a licensee.
This is not
I'm at least a licensee. Yes, I'm at least a licensee. You want to get on that? Let's get on it. I'm packing up.
To come escort you out here?
Do it, and I'll video that. You scare me,
So-
counsel. That, my friends, is the exasperated sigh of McCarthy Holtis Jr. attorney Joseph McIntosh.
Yep.
Why? I'll get there momentarily.
So what we're saying is they're so used to having their way at all times. Anyone who confronts the system as it has become and pulls the cover off of the lie that these are all just deadbeat homeowners.
No cigarettes, no sleep.
Millions of homeowners have been denied a refinance, have been subjected to modification runaround, or are facing foreclosure because mortgage banks have violated consumer rights, fabricated documents, and committed foreclosure fraud.
You're listening to Alternative Talk, 1150 AM.
Welcome back to the Susan Harmon Hour, where we're still able to breathe the air. And we'd like everybody in the United States and on the planet to be able to breathe the air. We're here with my guest, Scott Stafne, attorney for many homeowners, and has had some successes and also some trials and tribulations. And Chris King, who does mortgage movies. What is the exact?
Mortgage Movies Journal. If you just Google mortgage movies, it comes right up for you.
Okay, and he's had experience all over the country on this issue. This is a passion, I guess you would say, for Chris.
That's correct. It came to me kind of naturally. Years ago, I was a photojournalist, and then I went to law school. And I became involved heavily in property issues at one point, and I was doing a lot of work for the wireless companies in zoning and permitting. And then I was an escrow attorney, so all of these things kind of melded together with my experience as a civil rights lawyer, and there we are. So here we are today.
Yeah, and this is a huge, I think, civil rights, not in the sense that most people think of it as, but as a human being. And I want to mention, I didn't write this down in my notes, but today in Seattle, I forgot to write down the locations, but you can Google it, where 99 Homes is playing. And this is a very important movie to see. Check this movie out, 99 Homes, because it really it shows some actual scenes of things that actually happened in the way that people were thrown out of their homes in minutes' notice, even though they were in negotiations, they were doing all this. There's human beings attached to all of these things. These are people. This is not some esoteric discussion. These are human lives that are being laid to waste. And we've got a caller on the line. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Susan. My name's Steve.
Hi, Steve. So did you have a comment or a question for one of our guests?
Well, no, but I want to thank you for talking about this subject. I don't think we hear a lot from homeowners. I am a concerned homeowner. I'm actually dealing with the foreclosure issue myself, and I have been for past 5 or 6 years. And the part about this, with those homeowners out there that are struggling with this, to get educated on what's been going on, is that there doesn't seem to be a resolution. If you can keep the foreclosure from happening, there's still the threat of it. And so I think the subject of talking about the Attorney General and how they're supposed to be helping the homeowners of Washington State is a super important one. I've filed complaints with the AG. They basically just take your complaint and then do nothing with it. They'll take their time in reviewing it, but when they come back, they'll say, we can't represent an individual. Well, one individual can represent many individuals in the state. So,
and we know that's an argument without merit, because if I call and make a complaint about a certain company and somebody else calls and all of that, and you have several of those, then they do an investigation and they act on behalf of the consumer. And the same thing can happen with this. If enough people, and this is really, if you are in this situation, if you're in the listening audience and you're in this situation or have been in the past, got foreclosed on or came to some resolution, or you know someone like that, and tell me, there's hundreds of thousands of them right here in Washington State, then make a complaint to the AG's office. If enough people do that, they have no choice but to do.
Well, what they will do, though, is they will come in, and this is the point I made last week in the video that discusses the onslaught, if you will, of foreclosure mill attorneys who've impregnated the Attorney General's office now in the Consumer Protection Division. Okay, they have taken over that whole division, and the point I was making in that is that, look, they will basically go after servicers, for example, on technical issues, but they will never address the real substantive issues. So they are representing homeowners in that limited sense, but there's no real depth to the investigation.
And I think one thing that's very important to realize is that it's more an illusion than a reality. The fact that you believe that you can go to the AG and they'll do anything, that's probably not true. I mean, I think that as the people of this country, we really have to start looking at our government and this empire and try to determine what's true and what's not, because if we believe our system is working and it's not, then we're in denial. And we need to stop being in denial.
And at the same time, I agree with you, Scott. I'm with you there, Steve, on your position, and I'm so grateful that you called in. Keep up the good fight, and we will talk with you at another time. Have a great day, and seriously, keep up the good fight, because I honestly think, even though, yes, maybe nothing, if enough people do something, if enough people do it, it changes. And so don't stop. Don't get discouraged because nothing is happening. It only happens if we make it happen.
And you prove the point by making those objections, by sending in those letters, and they ignore them. At least
they need more
there.
letters. They're there, and the more that they get, they have to. At a certain point, there's a thing called the tipping point. So thank you, Steve, for the fight, and keep it up, and let other people know.
Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Scott and Chris. We really appreciate getting some voices out there. So thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And I think of all the coincidences or ironies, more of a coincidence. Years ago in another life, I worked for Kent Marcus and Richard Cordray at the Ohio Attorney General's office, and they're now heading up the CFPB, which we all know does do good things.
Right. What is the
The Consumer Finance Protection Bureau.
Thank you. See, you have to, you guys who do this for a living, you have the jargon, I know. I mean, it's like talking to a techie sometimes, like the what did what to who, where. No, I don't understand. It's the same thing. So the audience, they don't know what those initials stand for, And what I try to do here is give people enough information so they can go find more information and that they can understand in simple language what's happening. And most people don't. The picture has been painted of deadbeat homeowners. They're deadbeats. They're being foreclosed on because they didn't pay their mortgage. Well, in Germany, the government gave assistance to the homeowners to pay the banks and to get that done. In the United States, we gave the money to the banks.
And in Iceland, they went after corrupt bankers, but they don't do that here.
And they went after they were wonderful in Iceland.
Yes.
And we can do that. There's enough of a movement that has started, and it is necessary for people to switch their views and not be like, well, these guys are the guys, they dress like me, they look like me, they went to the same schools as me, they can't possibly be crooks, but they are crooks.
And that's the whole point. The primary focus of mortgage movies is to sensitize people to the plight of the American homeowner. Like, these people are not deadbeats. They're trying to pay their mortgages, or they have valid issues, and they're not being heard by the banks. They're getting run right out of court and right out of their homes.
And I think one thing that we have to look at now is the whole industry is changing. The mortgages are now being bought by hedge funds. And so it's like the same guy who bought the pill company and then jacked it up 5,000%. And so you're looking at, honest people who got into this and started the mortgage. And now the hedge funds have bought this for like a penny on the dollar. You've got some creep hedge fund guy who is trying to milk the everyday American citizen. And who are the courts going to support? I mean, this is the perfect time for the courts to show that they have some legitimacy and that they care about the people. I mean, right now, I think most of us wonder if we really have a justice system at all, or we have a court system that works as a Gestapo to just push people out of their home.
And it's not just, Scott, it's not just the homeowner that's getting fleeced. It's the school children, it's the American public, it's the tax-paying base. The cities and the counties and governments are being fleeced by, and for example, the MERS model.
Right.
Money's, to explain to the Americans out there who don't know what MERS is, your mortgage, more than likely, during a certain time period over the past 15 years, involves the Mortgage Electronic Registry System, MERS. And this particular model, in shorthand, is an electronic registration that allowed the banks to transfer property without paying any money, as should have been paid to the county recorders of deeds,
right.
Or city recorders of deeds.
Which is a good system because it tracks the note with the property. I mean, so that those stayed together for 200 years.
And you're saying that the county system is a good system.
It's
the
an
MERS
excellent system.
Was an imposter.
MERS was an imposter. They did it under the guise that it was a bookkeeping system, that it was started out to just keep track of things. Only they were getting, it's not that big of a fee on the counties, but they were moving things so rapidly, they were just transferring notes from this one to this one to this one. So instead of paying those fees each time and tracking it, that's what they call the gaps in
the gaps in the chain of title.
In the chain of title. There is a real issue with the chain of title, and that means that the person that is foreclosing, the entity that's foreclosing, doesn't actually own the note to foreclose on.
And so here, why is that illegal? The reason that is illegal, we have a statute in several statutes, but one is RCW 4016.030, which prohibits you from making false statements. So in what MERS will do is they will write a false statement claiming that they're a beneficiary because our deed of trust law requires them to do that in order to bring a foreclosure, a notice of trustee sale. And so they admit that they're not the beneficiary, so we know what they're saying is false, and they don't even have a right to record anything in the record unless they have some basis for doing so. So the fact that they report that they are the beneficiary is untrue, and that's a fraudulent statement. There's clear law out there. But
it's not being used.
Yeah, the King County Records Department, the King County Recorder, and pretty much recorders across the state don't use it, even though it was pointed out by Marie McDonald in her audit that this is a way they could get back a lot of the money.
This is one of the things I wanted to mention. The audience may not know, Marie McDonald was hired by the city of Seattle to do a limited audit to look to see, and the audit clearly showed that there's fraud.
Right, and she was engaged in other litigation in other areas of the country. We had the case,
the Montgomery
County, right? Nancy Becker out there, who was a county recorder
what
of
state
deeds.
Was that?
Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Back to Pennsylvania.
Of course,
Yes.
right, of course. And so, she was successful in the lower court and federal district court involving a similar issue. She was overturned on appeal, despite the fact that many law schools throughout the country, offered up amicus briefs on this matter.
Right.
But in any event, so it's still substantial.
And for you that don't know, amicus brief is a friend of the court. You're weighing in on the issue.
Right.
So that,
suffice it to say that there's substantial professional disagreement about this. It's a valid
and
issue.
I think that it's been appealed en banc, and it probably will go on its way up the Supreme Court. And the best issue is, why is a federal court got its nose in deciding issues regarding the disposition of property in a state? I mean, we have a system of dual sovereignty, and the most basic aspect of sovereignty is the land within a state's borders. And yet here, and this is one of the characteristics about the whole system, is the feds tried to take over. And this started with Bill Clinton when we got away from a state banking system. Once we federalized this entire program, I mean, the writing was in the cards.
Yeah, and there was something that I'm trying to remember. We talked about the audit.
Yes.
The courts. This is, to me, were part of the issue. Okay, we know right now. I was concerned when I read, okay, the Attorney General's office is hiring bankers. Now, my mind, my little justice for all kind of mind, thought, oh, well, they know how these mortgage companies work. They're now working for the people, to say, okay, I know how this goes, and it can't. Stafne kind of got me looking at that in a different way and saying they can't use what they know without getting permission from their former employers. And that's just in Washington State, or is that in many states?
Those are Washington rules, but they're pretty much across the country.
Well, doesn't that seem kind of crazy?
Conduct?
I mean, because then anyone who's a whistleblower then is not allowed to use that information to help the people that are being hurt.
They're not there to do that, though.
Well, and
we don't know. I mean, I'm just saying.
It doesn't feel that way.
I'm just saying.
Well, no, and they're not.
I'm going to do a whole segment called Just Saying.
That's right.
They have an ethical obligation to their previous clients to not become involved in a way that can hurt their other clients with regard to.
Well, then they shouldn't be
matters.
hired if they're supposed to be working for the people.
Which comes
Right.
back to my principal point that Attorney Stafne is elaborating on now. And we're going back to A.G. Ferguson next week when I call him, as I noted in one of the recent video I did last week. Okay, I'm not saying that is ipso facto a bad thing to hire a bank attorney to work for the AG's office, but there's no balance. Where the checks and balances, there are no homeowner attorneys working there.
Let me give you a good example. We've got two cases now that are very important. One was Trujillo, and it decides whether or not you have to own both the note and be a holder of the note to go forward. And
that seems logical.
Yes, but in Brown, so Trujillo said we're going to put that decision off to until it's decided by Brown. So the Attorney General argued with the homeowner on Trujillo, which is basically not very important. What's important is going to be what is decided by Brown. And in Brown, the Department of Commerce wants the court to hold that it doesn't matter whether you own the note as long as you're a holder. But it does matter greatly to homeowners.
Yeah, I have a...
So just let me finish off this one point, and that is that when you look at who argued Brown, it was a different office of the AG. And that's pretty much shows you why. I mean...
Why it's important.
Right. So the AG has thrown homeowners a bone and made a big deal about it
But it isn't really helping.
And when you see what comes out in Brown, that's going to be, and I predicted a long time ago, I thought Brown would be decided the next week, but I think the Supreme Court is probably going to go with the banks.
And I will say this, too. I have many cases in Florida that are coming out. I'm doing research on Lexus, and I'm finding that increasingly, homeowners are winning in courts of appeal. Foreclosures are being overturned on the basis that it's not simply enough to bring up a note and say, I've got the note, I can foreclose.
I think
not good enough.
The tide is turning, but it's very slow. And it's really slow in this state because we have people that just refuse to see this. Now, we're running a little low on time, but I wanted to definitely bring up the court issue about the judges.
Well, okay.
But go ahead, Chris.
Briefly, I just want to say this is the prevailing attitude. Okay, sunshine is the key in everything that I do. If you want to know what I do for a day, follow me around. I'll show you. Okay, I have no problem with a camera. But yet,
transparency is everything.
Right. There's transparency. So we need transparency in the AG's office. We need transparency in the courts.
Yep.
And I do video depositions, for example. There were some attorneys, Luke Wozniak, Joseph McIntosh, Heidi Buck Morrison. They all ganged up on me in a deposition and reversed their position that I could run video in this deposition. Now, I'm going to play a quick segment of this deposition to let you know when they tried to throw me out what went down there. And I'm seeing this kind of attitude from them and from Judge Monica Benton, a black woman who looked me in the face. Here's a black man looking at a black woman. We were both civil rights attorneys. She drags me in the back of her chambers because she won't do it in open court. And she wants to know why I want to run a video. And I said, well, Your Honor, it's consonant with the First Amendment. And she looked at me and said, we'll see about that, Mr. King. Well, see what, Your Honor? So she finally let me in.
I was in that courtroom, too, and I was astounded that she admitted publicly to collusion with the banker attorneys because she says, have your documents into me by 3 o'clock. I'll make my decision by 5. The other attorney says, well, we're doing it. We're deposing so-and-so at 1 o'clock. She says, I'll have my decision for you by noon.
Right.
So, I mean, if that's not a public admission.
She's obviously biased every time I've been in front of her.
And why is she no longer on the federal bench? I don't know. If I'm a federal magistrate, I'm not giving that up to come back to the county. What happened there? Where's the paper trail on this woman? I want to know.
Okay, we've only got a couple of minutes left.
Okay, I want to cue up this just a second so that people can see what the prevailing attitude is like out here. This should come through. Hold on.
All right, and so one of the things that I want the audience to know, let me know when you're ready, Chris.
I'm ready.
Is it going now?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay,
here
go.
we are. I'll put her up here.
Counsel, don't talk. Watch your tone, okay? I'm packing up, all right? Watch your tone to me. Thank you.
Please, get out. You're another
Watch your tone.
Listen.
I am an invitee and I'm packing up.
You're not an invitee.
Oh, yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am. I'm at least a licensee.
This is not
I'm at least a licensee. Yes, I'm at least a licensee. You want to get on that? Let's get on it. I'm packing up.
Want to come escort you out here?
Do it, and I'll video that. You scare me,
So-
counsel. That, my friends, is the exasperated sigh of McCarthy Holtis Jr. attorney Joseph McIntosh.
Yep.
Why? I'll get there momentarily.
So what we're saying is they're so used to having their way at all times. Anyone who confronts the system as it has become and pulls the cover off of the lie that these are all just deadbeat homeowners. These are people, a lot of these people have listened to the bank, have tried to negotiate a new loan, have worked really diligently to get their lives in order. And they're being used and abused and frankly, being profited on a second time.
See, and I would not mind. Listen, I have no problem with banks making money. I know they took the loan, they securitized it. Go ahead with that, but you've made so much money off of our signatures. When we get in trouble, cut us a break. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and I think you ought to know that we have cases where people have actually paid and have not been in default, and the bank will come in. What the bank says,
absolutely,
the bank will tell you, look, we can't let anybody win. Even if we're in the wrong, our model requires us to win.
And on that note, we are going to have to wrap it up for the day because we are almost out of time. I want to thank Chris King for joining me and Scott Stafne. There's so much more to talk about. We're going to have to do another show. I mean, it's just so, there's so much, and it's such an important issue because I'm telling you, folks, we're going to have another worldwide massive meltdown if we don't act on this now.